Good evening. I'm Sheffield Hale, President and CEO of the Atlanta History Center, one of two males in this room. Where are you? God bless you. We have a lot of loyal people around here. But I'm welcome to the Atlanta History Center tonight, and we're very excited to, for this event featuring Colleen Oakley, discussing her book, The Mostly True Story of Tanner and Louise, in conversation with Emily Giffin. I'm particularly excited as I have something in common with each of them. More on that later. You can purchase a copy of the book tonight at 25% off, and you'll be getting it technically a day before it's issued. It doesn't come out till tomorrow. So I guess you're wondering what you have in your hands right now. It's a pre-publication. It's super valuable, especially if you get her to autograph it tonight and date it, okay? So it'll be something you'll be a keepsake for the rest of your life, just because of that. We'll have some time for questions after tonight's interview, so be thinking of what you would like to say. Now, to introduce tonight's author and moderator. Colleen Oakley is a USA Today best-selling author who's been translated in more than 20 languages. Her books include The Invisible Husband of Frick Island, You Were There Too, Close Enough to Touch, and Before I Go. She's the winner of the Georgia Author of the Year Award and the French Reader's Prize. Colleen is a former magazine editor of Women's Health and Fitness and Marie Claire. She currently lives in Atlanta with her husband, 4 children, and 3 chickens. Importantly, she and I each have a dog named Baxter. She'll be in conversation with international best-selling author and frequent Atlanta History Center guest Emily Giffin. Emily's books include Something Borrowed, Something Blue, Baby Proof, and most recently, Meant to Be, among many others. She currently lives in Atlanta with her husband and 3 children. Most relevantly, many years after me, Emily graduated from the University of Virginia School of Law. Please join me in welcoming Colleen Oakley and Emily Giffin.
Do you have yours turned it on?
Okay. Can you all hear?
Can you hear me? No. Yes. Okay.
Well, hello and welcome. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. Thank you for the introduction. And our star, Colleen Oakley, author, an incredible author, extraordinary friend in person. And I know we're just all excited to be here with her to hear about her latest release. And we need a copy up here for pictures. So could someone sacrifice their copy?
Oh. Thank you.
Hey, Anna. She comes to everything.
She does.
She's a book lover. You too can get that status. Just come to everything. See, isn't that better? For any little pictures that come up. But Colleen, congratulations on this release. And thank you for the honor of inviting me to do this Q&A with you.
Thank you for coming. I just want to take it in for a minute because I've seen you on this stage and Jojo Moyes and Patty Callahan Henry.
Is this your first time?
Yes.
Oh my
goodness.
It
feels very surreal to be up here.
Well, it's long overdue, Atlanta History Center. Before we get into the book, some of you probably know this, but please share with everyone the exciting buzz that you're getting on this book.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, such amazing PR. It's just everything you want in week 1 of a publication Colleen is experiencing now. So share with everyone that exciting news.
Yeah, so some of you who follow me may have seen that it's the Marie Claire book club pick for April. Thank you.
4 million followers on the account.
And tomorrow, I'll be announcing that it's the Reader's Digest Book Club pick for April. And I'll also have an interview on NPR, All Things Considered, tomorrow afternoon. I'm not sure the time that it comes on, but I'm very excited.
Can you tell the Friday news?
I don't think I can.
Okay. And then there's another big one, too. So, that we're in the know and you're not, so we can't share that one with you. But that's incredible, too, because you're hitting all the demographics,
right?
Which is one of the things that I think is so special about this book and your writing generally, is your characters appeal to so many different groups. And I just think that's a special way that you write. And this book in particular, with Tanner and Louise, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, how many of you have read it? I know it doesn't come out till tomorrow, but
some of my friends.
I sense that there's a little bit of an inner circle here that might have had an early copy.
Mom, you didn't raise your hand. Okay.
Yeah, that's a problem. She probably read it like 4 times by now, right?
More
4?
than that.
Is it 4, about, give or take?
Yeah.
So we won't give away spoilers for those of you who did not get an early copy, but tell us just in a nutshell what the book is about.
Yeah, so it's about 84-year-old Louise who has suffered a hip injury, and her children insist that she has live-in help, even though she does not want live-in help. And that comes in the form of 21-year-old Tanner, who is a college dropout and does not want to be live-in help, but doesn't really have any other choices. So they are content to happily ignore each other until Louise bursts into Tanner's room one night at 1 a.m., holding a bag full of cash and insisting they leave town immediately. And then they go on this great big cross-country road trip trying to outrun the mistakes of their past and the police who are hot on their trail.
Don't give too much away.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. You can't give spoilers away on the night before the book comes out.
That's right.
But what inspired you to write this book? I mean, I know it's so hard as an author to answer that question succinctly because there's so many different inspirations and relationships and pieces and threads come together. But tell us, what were some of your big inspirations for this story?
So I'd say the major 2. First of all, the movie Thelma and Louise, which you could probably guess from the title and the cover. I just think it's such an iconic film. And the quote. Yes, the epigraph.
Yes. Okay, keep going.
Do you want to read it?
You read it.
So this is from Thelma and Louise. Louise says, "I just haven't seen you like this in a while. I'm used to seeing you more sedate." And Thelma says, "Well, I've had it up to my ass with sedate."
It's a perfect quote to use.
So that's the first kind of inspiration. I love road trip books, movies, and I've always wanted to write a road trip book myself. So first and foremost that. And then secondly, the idea came to me because I had a very close relationship with my grandmother, Marion Oakley, who passed a few years ago at the ripe age of 92. We had a really, really great relationship, particularly as I became an adult. We took road trips together. We talked on the phone often. We were just really, really close. And she had a very sharp, witty sense of humor. One of my favorite people. And about 5 years before she passed, she was diagnosed with late onset Parkinson's disease. I don't know if any of you have ever had experience with that. It's a pretty rough condition combined with the medications that are prescribed to help combat the symptoms of Parkinson's. She suffered from a lot of hallucinations and pretty vivid dreams. So she started having trouble really understanding what was real and what was not. So on our weekly phone calls, she started to say some pretty alarming things to me. For instance, one time she said, I asked her, "Oh, Grandma, what did you do this week?" She was living in assisted living at the time, and she said, "I went on a submarine tour, and it was lovely." I said, "Okay." And then another one, she said, "Colleen, did you send that $10,000 check to New Jersey?" And I said, "No, Grandma, what for?" And she said, "To pay off my gambling debts."
That is awesome.
So my family and I, she was also saying these outrageous things to other members of the family, and we started sharing them amongst each other. For 2 reasons. My grandmother herself would have found them hilarious because she had such a great sense of humor. And then for us, it was really a way to deal with our grief, of what was happening to her through humor. But for my novelist brain, I started thinking, what if any one of these outrageous things that she was saying were actually true? What if she had lived this whole other secret life that nobody in our family knew about, and it was just coming out at the end of her life? And that's when my character Louise, who has her own big secret past, kind of came to be.
I love that. I love that. And she had a lot to do with your last book, too, didn't she?
She did. She did, Frick Island.
And is this your mother?
This is, no, so
no, I'm saying
it's your dad's
mother.
It's my dad's mom.
I know you.
Yeah.
Everybody knows you. But that's your dad's mother?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's beautiful. I love that.
Thanks.
I love that inspiration. Did you get the most scoop in the family? Were you getting the juiciest details?
You know, I think my Aunt Wendy, because she was actually there and going to see her every day. One time my aunt walked in and she saw my grandmother like 2 or 3 times a day because she was like there. And she walked in and my grandmother said, "Wendy, you're here." Wendy said, "Yes." And she goes, "You're in jail." And Wendy said, I'm no, why am I in jail, Mom? And she goes, "For killing that man."
Maybe Wendy had some secrets too.
She might. We're going to have to ask her.
Okay, and back to Thelma and Louise. Did you see that in a theater? Do you remember the first time you saw it?
I did not. My mom was very, very strict about what movies I watched as a child. So I don't think I saw that until I was about 15 or 16.
Okay.
Yeah. But I remember the first time seeing it.
Did Brad Pitt inspire like a lot of August?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have the hot eye candy if you're doing homage to Thelma and Louise.
You do. And you did it justice. You did Brad Pitt justice. He was so good in that movie, wasn't he?
Well, good and good looking.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Incredible. That was his iconic role, wasn't it?
It was. That was like his breakout. Yeah, for sure.
So, enough of Brad.
Is it enough of Brad?
Well, that's true. Who's he dating now? Do we know?
Yeah, it's some model, isn't
French,
it?
Yeah.
Younger. Yeah, I mean, not that I obsessively keep tabs on him.
I think he's almost 60, and she's under 30.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Now we're starting rumors. I don't know.
No.
Could be.
I know, right? We've done that before. We'll keep this one above board, although we should get into Selena and Haley a little bit later, too. So your process for this one, you had these nuggets, you had this backstory with your grandmother and these phone calls, and of course your love of this movie. But what happened next? Like, was this one in the hopper for a while?
Yeah, for sure.
So because you have a lot of ideas going at once.
Yes. And really, while I was writing Frick Island, I was kind of working out the details of this one in my head. And what would Louise's big secret be, and why would they be running, and all of those details, which we won't give away.
No, we won't give them away. So you had worked on that in your mind. You journal, don't you? I mean, keep notes. You don't.
No, I really don't. I should, because I'm starting to forget a lot of things. But yeah, I really just kind of work out a lot in my mind, and then as I write, I don't remember if this is how you do it too, but I know kind of who my characters are, where we're starting, and then I know kind of where I want it to end up.
Sort of.
Yeah, kind of.
Big picture.
Big picture.
Right.
And I have no idea how I'm going to get from point A to point B.
Now, in so doing, and I may or may not be asking you that because I'm, struggling with it at this point in my novel, do you change paths a lot? Like, do you find yourself changing paths?
Yeah.
And is there ever a point where you just do not know?
Yes,
and then,
like most points.
And do you, at that point, who do you call? She's your number one call?
Yeah.
And just talk us through a phone conversation. The phone rings, you're having a bad morning.
I'm probably crying.
Okay. And do you say, like, I can't do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This one's not going to work.
And you say, yes, you can. You've done it 4 times before.
Yes.
This is your 5th, right?
Yes.
And you say, yes, you can. You know you can. Go sit down and write. Something like that.
She's like, could you call Emily next time?
Be on speed dial. And so do you say, what do you think, like, do you read chapter by chapter as she's writing, or more like chunks?
She reads when I get stuck.
Okay.
So
it'll be
I'll
like
send
6
like
chapters
100 pages and be like, and now I have no idea what to do. But generally what I need from her, and she knows this by now, is for her to read and go, oh no, this is really good.
Yeah.
Like you're not, like you are on a path.
Yes.
Like you haven't written 100 pages of terrible, terrible writing.
Are there ever times when you don't believe her?
Oh yeah, because
because that's what I get into with my mom.
Her
like, I don't believe
voice
you.
goes up, like oh.
It's not good.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, what?
Good.
You got some, or do you ever get the, you've got some good stuff here.
Yeah, yes, some good stuff.
Some good stuff here. There's stuff to work with. Okay, this is good. And then do you just sort of sit down and make yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole key, right?
That's the key. Yeah.
And what does your writing schedule look like? I know you have 4 children.
Yeah.
You're very busy.
Yeah.
With
so
them. I mean,
on deadline, I get up early. I do the 5 a.m. thing because that's when I can get the most done without all the I don't get distracted by social media. It feels like the whole world is sleeping, and that's just my time. And then I try to write more when they are at school, and some days that's very successful, and some days that looks a lot like being on Instagram and eating food.
Or you get the text messages, they forgot something.
Oh my gosh, or somebody, out of 4 of them, one of them's sick, and then I got to go pick them up from school, so yeah.
And then you're always a mix probably of grateful that, oh, I don't have to write, I've got to go.
Right,
yes,
that's the excuse. I've got to be a mom, I got to. Yeah.
And so when did you start this one?
This one
like
I started,
first.
so my grandmother passed in February of 2020, right before the whole world shut down. And I really started it then, but then I became somehow a stay-at-home mom who was also a school teacher of 4 children.
Right.
So I took about 6 months off of writing and did not.
Because you couldn't.
I couldn't. Absolutely
That's the last time that we did your event was January of 2020.
Yep.
Right
before the world shut down,
I remember you talking about this book, and I was like, hurry and write it because we all need to read this. But yeah, that's great. That's been over 3 years. It seems like a lot longer in some ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think with the pandemic, with the 6 months, you just couldn't write. But were you one that was more, this is the end of the world and I can't think and I can't do anything? Or did you find that your introverted tendencies sort of lent themselves to the creative process?
Yeah, I think it was more, I am so busy trying to figure out what to do with these 4 kids that I didn't have room for anything else, And then when they finally went back to school, I was able to kind of breathe again and then sit down and go, oh, I do like the story idea,
Yeah. And there are some very deep themes in this book, even though it's a lot of fun. It's, this jaunt and their road trip and Thelma and Louise vibes. You really tackle some weighty themes, including this idea of feminism and what that looks like in different eras and to different women of different ages today. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's funny because I never go into a book and go, I'm going to tackle this really important theme. Like this one, I was like, I'm going to do this really
character-driven for you.
Sure, and plot-driven. And I thought I'm just going to do this really fun road trip, and it's going to be fun, so fun. But when you're dealing with an 84-year-old woman and a 21-year-old girl who are all dealing with their life issues, you can't help but start talking about what's important to women, what it means to be a woman in this world, what it means to be a 21-year-old in 2023, what it means to be an 84-year-old, and everything that Louise has been through. So then I really had to start kind of diving into like second wave feminism, because that's what Louise would have, lived through in her 20s and 30s, and do a little bit more research and find some things that surprised me about things that happened. For instance, like it wasn't until 1973 that we had the first, they used to call them back then, battered women's shelters, which is insane. Like, what did women do?
Before that?
Yeah.
Well, no one was even talking about it to begin with,
right? Nobody even acknowledged the problem.
Right.
And then it wasn't until 1974 that a wife could open a credit card without her husband's permission. So just really wild things that are not that far in the past. Yeah.
At all. Wow. So, and you enjoy research.
I love
the research. That about you.
I think mostly because it procrastinates the writing.
And you went on trips with your mom for Frick, right?
Yes. We went to Smith Island.
Right. Yep. And so what research did you do on this one?
Yeah, so the most fun stuff that I did, without giving too much away, I had to do a lot of police procedural work and FBI work. So I actually found out that a guy that I went to high school with, through our connections, works for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. And so I just emailed him out of the blue, and he remembered me, and he was so helpful in like exactly how
it works.
how it would go.
Oh, that's
to make sure that I got that right, and that was really fun. As I like to say, and my mom's not going to like that I say this, I have experience running from the law, but I don't have experience with the law part.
Do we get, now, come on, this is the eve of your launch, and you're not sharing your Friday secret. Can we please get some inside details of when you've been running from the
She
law?
still hates when I talk about it. I was in high school and made some poor choices.
But she learned from them.
I learned from them.
And she wouldn't, you know, she
and I
has,
turned out, look, everything turned out fine.
Yes. But we still don't get the specifics.
No, she'll
Maybe
kill me.
You would kill her.
She still gets really mad.
It's not about our mistakes, it's what we do with them.
That's right, how we learn from them.
Right? Okay, Tanner and Louise, let's dive into these delightful characters. How did you, tell us about developing them, writing from two different viewpoints. How was that for you? Which one did you enjoy more?
Yeah, so Louise was really heavily inspired by my grandmother, and I enjoyed, I think, writing her the most because it was really a catharsis. I mean, like, I almost felt like I was bringing my grandmother to life as I was writing, you know, Louise.
Very much like your grandmother.
Very much like my grandmother. Very pragmatic, sharp, witty, biting, you know. And so I really enjoyed writing her. She was very easy to write because I could just think of like what my grandmother would have said. And Tanner really grew as just the antithesis to Louise. You know, Tanner's more of the rule follower. She is really angry at the world for, you know.
Rightfully so.
Right. And this isn't really a spoiler, at the opening of the book, you find out that Tanner is a college dropout because she had a very promising soccer career until she had this career-ending injury and lost her scholarship to Northwestern. So she is very, you know, kind of at wit's end and thinks her life is over.
And I liked what you did, having two college athletes. I was fascinated with that whole, delving into that. What made you choose to have her be a former college athlete?
Well, we're a big soccer family, and so that was part of it. And then just I wanted her to be in that place where, you know, I think at the age of 21, and I tried to remember, it was a long time ago, what that feels like to feel like you're trying to figure out your place in the world. And so that's what Tanner's doing, but trying to figure out her place in the world after this really devastating thing where at 21 you feel like your life is over. If you have life experience, if you're 40, you know, and something happens, you have perspective. But at 21, you really think it's all over.
Which is really scary given the decisions that people can make along with that. But, did you talk to any, you know, 21-year-olds?
I did. I had to, because I was like, I would probably have had her on Facebook, right? Like, I have no idea what 21-year-olds do. So my kids' babysitters, who are both 21, they're twins. They could probably tell some funny stories about text messages that they got from me. You know, like different slang phrases, like would she say this? Would she? And they would, I'm sure they rolled their eyes quite a bit.
And did you, for some of the scenes that involve kind of male attraction and so forth, did you talk to them about any of that, like their crushes?
No, I'm good with male attraction. So. See Brad Pitt.
You didn't need any help with that, did you?
I remember that,
I always feel like we're close to getting in trouble with Fred in this.
He asked me today, he said, is Emily going to be mad that I'm not there?
Well, I'm disappointed, Fred, one of these days. But, so Tanner, how do you picture these characters? How would you cast them?
Okay.
This is going to be, we're going to see this.
I hope so.
Yes, I mean, that announcement's coming next. That's not the Friday announcement, but it seems inevitable. I mean, wouldn't this be the most fabulous? Yes, so cast it for us.
84 Louise, I think Shirley MacLaine or Jane Fonda, I think would be awesome.
She'd be great.
And then, I don't know why the name just escaped me, but for Tanner, Mom, the girl from Enola Holmes and from Stranger Things. Millie Bobby Brown.
Oh, that's good.
I think she'd be great.
She's, that's, have
Would
you
she be
DM'd
good?
her? You need to.
I will.
You need to start planning
She's on my wish list.
Did your publisher send her the book?
I think my film agent sent it to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
So, yeah.
Okay, ageism. Let's talk about that a little bit. You know, you don't fall into these stereotypes and tropes of older characters. I mean, she's as fresh and interesting as Tanner and your younger characters that you've drawn and written about. Was that something that you, I mean, I know you were inspired by your grandmother and you had a close relationship with her, but is that something that you actively wanted to do because you feel that those characters aren't as fully realized in women's fiction as they should be?
Yes, 100%. And I think also stemming from how close I was with my grandmother, she would talk to me about that stuff. It's funny, I say this jokingly, but it's true. She was ageist herself. Like when we wanted her to go into assisted living, she said, with all those old people? And she was 88. And so, you know, and just knowing her, like she wasn't one of those old people in that stereotypical way. And no, old people are old people, and they're all their own person. We're all human. Everybody has their own desires and needs and, you know, wants. And I really wanted to be clear about that, and I didn't want her to be some stereotypical character, and I wanted you to see her, yes, she's 84, but she is fully human as well.
And that really came through, for those of you who have read it, didn't it? I mean, you didn't feel at all like she was just blending in with some run-of-the-mill 84-year-old. Like it was really specific and so finely drawn. I love that. You need to come over to my mother's retirement home on St. Anne's. And yeah, you'd be a hit. You should do a book club there.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
They would love that.
That would be good.
That's exactly. Have you dropped this off with the retirement communities in town? Aren't you her publicist?
That's right.
Okay, we'll
send her out tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
with a stack of them.
I can handle a couple of them. I know how to. There's like 2 or 3 where I would love to drop them off for you.
That'd be great.
Because that's, you know, and they have their relationships with their grandchildren and so forth, and you can read it together. I love those books that you can read together. FBI, the FBI agent, you told us a little bit about that. Yep. And Louise's children, great secondary characters in this book. Who was your favorite to explore?
For secondary characters? I think all of her children. There might be some similarities. I'm the youngest of 3, and when my brother and sister read it, they may have seen some similarities. And it was just really fun because I was making fun of them, which is what a younger sibling should do. So I enjoyed writing.
Okay, give us a specific.
Okay, so there's mostly you see the siblings in text message exchange as they're in varying degrees of concern over where their mother is and what's going on with her. And so there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of making fun of each other. And the oldest, Jules, is the most concerned. She is very hyper concerned about her mother in all ways. She's the one that really wanted to live in care. And so Charlie, who's the middle child, is not at all concerned in any way, shape, or form. And so he's making fun of Jules, saying, "You're concerned about everything. Remember that time that you thought the log in the lake was an alligator?" And that happened. We were at my mom's house. We were all on the dock. And my sister, who is definitely more of the anxious, nervous Nelly one of the group, she's not here, so I can say that. We were sitting on the dock, and we're all having cocktails, and the kids are all swimming in the water. And she jumps up, and my sister is not an athletic woman. She does not move quickly. And you have never seen somebody jump from the dock into a kayak. And she was paddling. There was a wake behind her. She was paddling because she was convinced that this log was an like she had seen an alligator in this man-made lake that's like, it's small. And all the kids were staring at her like, "Aunt Megan, what are you doing?"
This is in Georgia?
This is in my parents' lake house, yeah.
There's alligators here.
Well, there are, but...
Safe than sorry.
But
and
Mom,
also,
are there alligators in that lake?
I know it's Florida and it's different, but you remember that alligator who was in Disney?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, that was terrible. Yeah. And that's Fred's biggest fear, and my sister.
It's. I mean, this is diverging in a really depressing direction, but I actually told my daughter, "You know you can't go to the University of Florida," and she's like, "Because of the mascot?" And I'm like, "Yes." I was dead serious. I'm like, that is all I see. She's like, I know, it's the kid who died in Disney World. I'm like, that's all I see when I see the Florida mascot. It's all over kids' lunch boxes and stuff. It's like, it kills children. No.
Yeah, and University of Florida is a terrible school. As a Georgia graduate, I have to say that. So I'm glad she didn't go there.
That too. But the mascot's very scary.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's see. Research, we covered that one. Oh, this quote. I love this quote. I wrote it down. Angry women don't bother me. It's the ones who aren't furious that I worry about. Loved that.
Yeah.
And did someone say that in your life?
I mean, I think it's one of those that I've probably just heard, you know, and I like that Tanner kind of rebuts and makes fun of her for it. But I think it's very true. I mean, if you really sit down and think about it, which I try not to often, there's so much that will make you angry about being a woman in the United States, especially now.
I know.
So.
And you seem to me to be fairly laid back, though, in your approach to things. Is that, would you say that's true?
I'm saying yes. I'd say that's true. Jamie, yes. My best friend is here, too.
Jamie. You know why I was confused? Jamie, so I just met Jamie at an event last week, and she said that you all were best friends, and her voice really sounds like yours. Did she tell you that?
She told me that. I thought that was
You
funny.
have similar, like, manners of speech
like cadence
or something. Yeah, cadence, you just sound like you could be sisters. But you said you weren't going to be in town for tonight when I asked you. Saturday. I know, and now I figured that out, but I'm like, that can't be Jamie. That's got to be like a lookalike or something, because you said you weren't going to be here. But yeah, so I'm glad you're here from the AJC.
Great.
And AJC, this is a good time to mention, did you know we have a new publisher? You know that AJC has a new publisher? Yep. It's going to revolutionize that paper, that media outlet. We're so excited to have Andrew Morse in town. So everyone, get your subscriptions going and tune back in. Game changer there. So, and I think he's going to do a lot for books as well. So,
I think so
authors.
too. Well, if Jamie has anything to do with it, he will.
Well. Okay, who read the book along the way? And this is one that I think you've touched on and we've talked about in the past, this idea of you don't sit down to write with this message in mind. Right. But as you write, the themes develop and now you have some distance from the book. You turned in probably your final edits. When would that be?
Gosh, like a year and a half ago.
Oh, that long ago?
Yeah, it's been a while for this one.
That's what my editor means when she says we need more runway. Because I turn it in and then it comes out in 4 months and she's like, we really need more runway. And I'm like,
you're coming in steep on the plane.
How much runway do you need? But now I'm talking to Colleen and I'm like, oh, she needs that kind of runway. Got it. But so it's been a while since you were in the creating part of this, but what do you hope with a little bit of distance, and now that the book's going into the world and people are reading it and reviewing it, and the reviews are fabulous online too, what do you hope people take away from it?
I think it's got a couple different themes. Obviously, what it means to be a woman in the world, the importance of intergenerational relationships and what we can learn, not even just friendships, but like grandmother, child, mother, child, female friendships have been so important in my life, and I feel like have made me the person I am, which if you don't like me, it's their fault.
Like you, so Jamie gets credit.
And then, what I really just hope people take away from it, besides it being just a super fun escape, like I think, just go into it for a fun escape from the terribleness of the world, is just really maybe seeing people in their lives and looking at them differently. So whether it's an elderly neighbor, whether it's a distant aunt that you're not very close with, and maybe sparking up those conversations and seeing what you can learn from each other.
I love that. Everyone turn to someone here and there. No. Get someone's information. We'll all make a friend here tonight. What is next for you? What are you what are you working on now? I know you have something. At least one thing.
I do. I'm about 60,000 words into my next book, which I can't talk too much about. I will say it's hopefully darkly funny, which is what I like. It's to do with an eco-terrorist group. It's to do with a marriage on the brink of divorce, a very famous Michelin-starred restaurant, and it's called Jane and Dan at the End of the World.
Ooh. Have you read all 60,000 words so far?
Wait, let's see. Ask her what she thinks, and we'll see if her voice goes up.
What do you Who's your, because we're all going to remember this when we're here, and will that be?
It'll be 2 years, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm glad you do that.
Oh
Isn't
my
it?
God.
It's with
I have
kids.
to, yeah.
Yeah, I did the every year publication for 4 books in a row.
I don't know how you did that.
Well, I stopped because I
Yeah.
just felt like I was missing so
Yes.
much, and I don't even have the 4th kid. I only have 3. So, but we'll all remember this because I remember so well hearing about this when we were discussing Frick 3 years ago. But who is your favorite character in that book so far? And the one she's writing.
The Jane and Dan. Oh,
So we can
God.
have we can plan it here. And
I think Dan.
okay. And who's your favorite character in this book?
Louise.
Hey, did you like Tanner?
Yes, very much.
Were you ever frustrated with Tanner?
Well, sure. She's 21 years old.
Right. But you never turned on her, did you? No. And was there ever a point where you said to Colleen, you need to make this person more likable or that person more likable or take the edge off, or you don't?
I think she nailed the characters. Really.
So you don't, that's not, well, she did nail the characters, but I didn't know if that's because you were, behind the scenes.
She helped edit.
Yes. What do your notes tend to be like when you give her notes? Is it just more you're a sounding board, or do you say?
I do grammar, I do sentence structure, and I'm the sounding board. She
Oh, okay.
some talks and cries.
Oh, I love that. And what about Fred? Is he?
Fred, I don't let him read the book until it's done on purpose to save our marriage. Because then all he can say is, it's wonderful, because then nothing can be changed.
Is he a big reader?
He has grown to be a big reader.
Okay.
He mostly reads nonfiction. He likes to read business management books, and he likes to read, he orders those like microbiology textbooks off of Amazon. He rents them, and he's in bed holding a book this big because he finds all of it fascinating.
Wow.
He went to Georgia Tech.
That needs to be a character.
Yeah, I know.
Can you get a picture of him with that
I have
book?
who did I send the picture to? One of my friends.
Yeah,
Megan?
I need to see this.
Yeah, I don't think she believed. She was like, I don't think he really does that. And I was like, no, he
Fred
does
held
that.
my book up by the pool, I have to say, in an Instagram post that I had.
He did. He modeled your book.
That was after Buddy held yours up.
Yes.
I saved it for spring break for that reason, because it's like a tradition on our trips. But do you all have any questions for Colleen?
I do.
Right here, I'll bring you a microphone.
Hi. I was just wondering, Colleen, what started you on your path that you knew you wanted to be an author? How early or how late, and how did you progress from that point?
Yeah, so I really like to say ever since I could hold a crayon, I was writing books. My mom has whole stacks of them. My mom really is kind of the inspiration, or it's her fault that I do this, because she has always been an avid reader. Literacy is very important to her. She works with adults and teaches them how to read and helps them get their GED, and has done that for years. My earliest memories are her volunteering at the library, and she would just dump me and my siblings in like the children's book section, and it was just like the world's greatest playground to me. So I've always been an avid reader thanks to her, and then just thought when I was like 4 or 5 that I was going to be a children's book author because that's what I read. And then when I graduated to like the Babysitters Club, I was going to be a middle grade author, and then it just went on from there. So I've always wanted to be an author.
Did you have what was your career before?
In magazines.
Oh, that's right, I knew that.
Yeah, graduating from college, I was like, how does one just become an author? And how does one make money at that? And my dad was not going to let me move back home, so I needed a job. And journalism, paid the bills. And it's so closely linked. You are still telling stories. They're just other people's stories. Yeah.
Okay, I like that question. What do we have others?
So I'm curious about, like, you have a film agent, like how did that come about? And, I'm an aspiring author, so it's just like wondering, like, I can see my book one day, like on the screen, and it's like, is there any recommendations you would have or things to look out for?
Yeah, so the film agent really does come after the book agent and the book deal. And then, if the book agent thinks that this would be a really good project to then be adapted onto screen, then they generally have contacts in the film agent world, and they know which one would be the best one to represent your work, or they shop it around to different film agents and see who kind of falls in love with it. So that's how that's kind of how it works out. So focus on the book first, work on getting the agent and the book deal, and then if it's a great adaptation, then they will come. Build it and they will come.
Do you see this more as a feature film, or like a 7-part miniseries? Or?
Yeah, so I can say this secret because I'm so excited about it. This was bought by a film company, and I am very, very hopeful. They want to do a feature film. So I am very hopeful that we'll see it on the big screen.
So a film. That's how
film.
You see
That's
it.
how my producer sees it, and we'll
so
see.
Too. It's a very 3-act.
Yes.
It's I miss the movie. There's so much TV now, and it's great, but I miss like film, like a movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible news. What
So
a week.
we'll see.
What a week.
Who knows? But who knows? You know, with all the adaptations, who knows?
Still, that's very, very positive news.
Thank you.
And what other questions do we have?
Have there been any books that you started that just simply weren't mom approved, or that you just were like, it's not gonna work?
Yes.
How many?
Very many. For you too? I mean, do you have ones that you have like 10 and 20,000 words and you just stop?
Some.
Yeah.
Some, I mean, a few.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But I think you have a lot. You generate a lot of ideas. Like, you're constantly going through it, right? I mean, don't you have a lot of? And so it makes sense that you would have the beginnings of several manuscripts in a drawer.
Yep.
Could you give me one, please?
If you can figure them out, you may have them.
We're really good friends. I would like one of them. At least float me an idea. That's the hardest part for me.
Yeah. Are you going to tell us what you're working on?
Oh gosh, it's not interesting. Really, truly. But other questions for Colleen?
I do not believe in writer's block. I think it's fear. I think it's the fear of failure, the fear of thinking that you're not good enough, the fear of putting words on the page and hating them. So I have writer's block all the time. But you just have to power through it. You just have to really make yourself sit down and write. If I'm really stuck at a scene, then I will get up, I will take a walk. I'm sure you have all these things that you do too.
Walking does help.
Walking helps. Just being away from screens, letting your brain kind of be free. I'll mow the lawn. Like, I get ideas mowing the lawn.
That's cool.
In the shower, I get ideas, So if I'm just really banging my head against the wall and I'm not sure what to do next, I call my mom and cry, and then I take a walk. And generally, over a couple of days, things will loosen up, and I'll figure it out.
And some days you just find you just got to throw in the towel.
Oh, yeah,
It's
for
not gonna
sure.
happen.
It's not going to happen, and you got to, yeah.
And that, I think, is a hard part about our profession, because, as a magazine writer, you can probably just make yourself finish it. I used to be a lawyer. I could always just bill a client, finish the, but there's something about the creative process that sometimes the harder you work, the more stuck you can become.
The worse it is.
And sometimes you really are like, all of your muscles are like, you're so, and you're like, I haven't even written anything. And I'm like, worn out. I'm going to need to call you in those moments. But then her voice is going to be high, and I'm going to say.
It's not going to be better.
Yes. Okay.
Do you write your book sequentially? And then also, how is the whole adaptation, who's going to write the screenplay thing work?
Yeah, great questions. So I do write my books sequentially, and I think this harkens back to my editor days. This is not how you are supposed to do it by any means I edit as I go.
So do I.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear
We
that.
are like so much alike
I know,
in terms
I
of
know.
the plotting. It's
Yeah.
so much alike
Yeah.
in so many ways. It's
Yeah.
really weird. But yeah, you're the only person. It gives me confidence.
Me too, because then I feel really, I have these
Yeah.
10,000 words and then these 15,000 words that I feel really good about, and then I can keep building from there.
It goes back to that thing that we were just talking about. Like you can always, you can put in 2 hours and actually make something better that was
Right.
there. Like
Right.
you know you have something to show for it. And then that gives you the confidence of like, that chapter is way better than it was this morning.
Exactly.
And then you get that little boost of confidence. I'm really going to need your mom, though, for this. But that was a great question.
Yeah, and then the second question was, how does the writing, okay, so generally, and I don't have a lot of experience with this, so maybe Emily could speak to it more. I believe it's the producer and whoever they bring on board. Sometimes they bring a director on board, sometimes they attach a writing team first. So in my case, they have chosen this writing team that they really like, who are creating a treatment, and then they go out and pitch it to all the big studios. But you know, they really choose, and then this producer has been really great because I want to learn how to write a screenplay. I don't think I want that to be my job. I just like learning new, you know, ways of writing and how to tell those stories. And so she's been very kind and said, you know, oh, you can absolutely sit in on the writers' meetings and learn things.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Yeah.
Because you want to be involved.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I know it's not really my baby. Once you turn it over to adaptation, it's their baby and they get to do what they want with it. But I do want to be involved and know what's happening.
I would say that's a very good sign, though, that they have been saying that you can be included and so forth, because you hear of that just not happening at all.
Right.
Like they buy it and then that's it. You don't hear again ever from anyone. So that's a really good sign.
Yeah.
And it helps that you're so likable too, because I think the fear is that you start involving an author and it becomes
they get very demanding or very upset about things, or
right.
Yeah.
And you're not like that. So I'm sure they're just like it's input. They're getting sort of this free input.
Right. Right.
But it's fun for us, so
Yeah,
that
I
works
love it.
out. That was a good question too. What else do we have?
Hi. So I have a kind of a two-part question. So I know you said that you were like, how do I even become an author? I would like to know, the first book that you wrote, was it one that ended up being published? And how did you figure out kind of the process, you know, of actually creating a book that was publishable?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. The very first book I wrote, do you have a book in the drawer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the very first book I wrote took me 3 years, as I was also freelancing at the time for different magazines and newspapers. And it was not very good, but I finished. You know, I think I call that my practice book because I had to prove to myself that I could write, you know, 300 and some odd pages and really finish a story from beginning to end. I did have an agent for that book. It did go on sub. I think we were on sub for a full year. It got a lot of really kind rejections and a lot of not so kind rejections. It was a really, really hard year. And then I emailed, so when I was at Marie Claire, I interviewed a lot of authors. I was in charge of the book section, which was like a dream job. And so I interviewed a lot of authors that were like, they were doing the dream career that I wanted to have. And one of them, you know, Allison Winscotch, who is like the greatest person on earth. I interviewed her for her book, and we stayed in touch. And I remember emailing her and saying, Allison, this book is just not going to sell. Like, I feel like I have to accept this. And now what do I do? And she said, well, you have to write another book. And I was like, that is the worst advice that anybody has ever. And so, you know, like I cried and called my mom. And then I wrote another book, and that became Before I Go. And I got a new agent, and that sold in like 2 weeks to Simon & Schuster, which was exciting anyway, but I think coming off of the year of full failure, it made it all that more exciting.
Not failure.
Yeah, learning experiences.
You didn't realize your initial goal, but it brought you to the next book.
Exactly.
Yes. And when did we met at that book signing for
Patty?
And so your book had come out.
It was about to come out. Yes, and you were so nice.
I had a galley of it.
Yes.
I had it. Yes. Yeah. So that was how soon after
I feel like that was 2004, like late 2014, and Before I Go came out in January 2015. And when I first met Emily, I was starstruck. I was with my friend Brooke, who's not here tonight, but I remember seeing you. I didn't know you were going to be there, and I saw you, and I go,
We were that, oh, stop.
That's Emily Giffin.
It was at that little restaurant that had
in Brookhaven.
You could have dogs there,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I remember, but I didn't have a dog at the time yet.
Yeah.
So I don't think I did. But yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah, it was really fun.
But I loved your book. I loved your writing right away. So
Sweet.
yeah, it was like that connection. And it's nice to have local author friends, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So what other you had one, didn't you? A question?
Yeah, I was curious, do you let your kids read your book? And are they like, oh, Mom's so cool, or do they think it's lame?
Yeah, no, I am definitely not cool in my house. But I love that question because my son, Henry, my oldest, he's almost 13, and he's an avid reader. And just last week, he had like blown through all the books he had just got at the library, and he said, Mom, I don't have anything to read. And I gave him this book, and I said, read it. And he read it in 2 nights, and he was very complimentary. And so, yeah, I can say yes now. My kids do read my books.
I love that.
I can probably just speak up. I'm a teacher.
Yeah, you get the teacher voice.
So 2 questions. One, thinking back to yourself being a young person who knew she wanted to write, what would you say to yourself? And then secondly, what, if any, young adult series or novels are you or your children reading that I can take back to life?
That's great. So the advice that I would give myself and that I give to all writers, who have not yet been published, is persevere, keep at it. This industry is really just all about the people who don't give up, because it's very, very easy to throw in the towel and give up when you continuously get rejected.
There's very few of us who published that first book we ever wrote.
Right. Right.
And so it's all about Allison's advice to write another book.
Yep. Exactly.
Which is really true in life, right? I mean, our first relationships don't usually work out. Our first, we get better as we go along, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Louise would say so.
Yes,
for sure.
And then the second question is, so we're on a big Judy Blume kick at my house, which is not very original, but I've been reading out loud. The kids still like me to read out loud to them, and even sweet Henry, who is too old for me to read him out loud, will sneak upstairs and when he hears me reading out loud. So it's like my favorite part of the night. And we did Tales of Fourth Grade Nothing, and we're now reading Otherwise Sheila the Great. And then my oldest daughter and I are reading Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Like, I got us each a copy, and we're doing a mother-daughter book club, and we're going to see the movie when it comes out.
I cannot wait for that
I'm
movie.
so excited for that.
So excited.
Yeah.
I love the movie poster. Isn't it
I know,
good?
it's so good. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm excited for the Judy Blume documentary. Did you see? That's going to be incredible.
That's amazing.
You know how you talked about you had those first books that you look at failures. Now, since you have all this experience, couldn't you go back and tweak it and enhance it and make it better and expand upon it?
For me, no. What about?
No, I mean, maybe one day. Mine was actually a young adult novel that I
really?
wrote first. Yes, but no to that. I mean, I think because you're just sort of moving, we've evolved past that little manuscript in the drawer, right?
Yeah, and I also think...
Mine was bad, though, too.
Mine was really bad, and I think that, that old adage, write what you know. So, like, mine was just a very, not even very well disguised. Like, it was a lot of pieces of my life, and my life is not interesting.
Yes,
so
it is.
It's not that. It's not interesting enough for a book.
Yes, it is.
So it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that I wrote it, and I had to write it, and it was devastating to me at the time that it did not get published and nothing was going to happen with it. But now, looking back, I'm so glad it didn't get published, because it would have been a very different career for me.
And you wouldn't have probably written the one that you...
Right.
Before I...
Yeah, before I go. Yeah.
The next one, right.
Yes.
So it works out.
Do you think you will go back to that first one and, fix it?
No, I think it's done.
You were talking about you ever see having 4 young children about going back and writing YAs or children's books?
Yeah, I actually have written a children's book, and my agent is passing it to a children's book agent at her agency. And I'm really pursuing it only because my children love the book so much, and they really keep saying, Mom, I really want you to get that published. So who knows? I don't know if it's good enough to be published, but that would be really fun. I think YA is really, really challenging to write. Good YA, and so I don't know that I have that skill set or that I'm drawn to that. What do you think?
I think you have that skill set. I think you can do anything, Colleen.
Yes.
Does music play any type of role in your writing process?
That's a great question. Do you want to go first?
No, she's asking you.
Oh, okay.
But hi.
Yeah.
I remember you from 2006.
Can we see your dress? This is the fashionista. She's always showing up in the most, gorgeous.
Beautiful. Never let us down.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I definitely use music to set a mood depending on the scene that I'm writing. Sometimes I write in complete silence, especially like for the book You Were There Too, which was my 3rd book, very emotionally heavy book. I used music a lot to set a mood for myself while I was writing. So yeah, what about you? Music or silence? Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
So,
it's a great question. Thank you. More?
Okay, thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you have not purchased a book yet, we still have some available in the atrium, and they're 25% off, so definitely get them tonight. Colleen will be doing personalized book signings at the table, the right side of the atrium, right past the entrance doors. So if you're interested, please line up in front of the table, and let's get one more round of applause for Colleen Oakley and Emily Giffin.
Thank you, guys.